That was fast.
Yeah, I know. I'm not 6 minutes late. It's insane.
Um, I'm back into coding Beach Mobile.
Dang. Awesome.
Well,
You have to update everything to like a
nope,
new version
nope,
of .NET
nope.
and
I'm not doing it. Plus, it was written in Xamarin. Xamarin, I believe, has been deprecated, and I have like 3 mobile apps to support this. I think I got to write a fourth one. No, I'm not doing that. I'm only doing this because I failed my certification twice already, and so I'm like, all right, let me do some hands-on. Uh, I don't know, Beach Mobile Labs to hopefully strengthen my skill set so that on my third attempt, maybe I'll pass it. So
Mhm.
if you notice within my billable subscription.data gateway, I have a Cosmos set of files and I have a Redis set of files.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
so I'm going to implement this cache aside pattern, which is essentially taking a request to post or taking a request to query something and first hitting the Redis data store. And then if it's not successful, meaning that something's not registered, a key is not registered or the key has expired, then hitting the database, taking the result of that database, hence the database being Cosmos or SQL Server or whatever, and then updating the the Redis data store by registering a key value and then also registering a expiration, so aka time to live. Uh, on the separate solution, I gotta I gotta try out the content delivery network that Azure provides, but that doesn't fit into the billable subscription service. So the content delivery network will basically involve me migrating all my images from the store catalog, hence like the I don't know Bluetooth speakers and tents and canopies and all that stuff, all those images. And yeah, I think this is going to involve Blob Store and Content Delivery Network. And I'm not sure how those two play together because the whole point of Blob Store is to store um, either blocks. Well, there's 3 types. I think it's called like a block, a pin, and page. Those are the types of blogs.
Hmm.
I'm not sure where content delivery. I mean, I understand content delivery network, aka CDN, provides geo support to reduce latency. I'm not sure how the two map to each other because I would think that the whole point
It's
of content delivery network is to have static files. So am I just storing the static files on the Azure CDN or
yeah.
am I storing it on Azure Blob and somehow Azure Blob or CDN
No.
has tooling to connect to Azure Blob?
So CDNs are caches, right? So it's like a forward cache. So if I'm in, let's say, I don't know, Egypt, uh, somewhere's, and you've got the blob storage in Seattle, right? You can go halfway around the world. So what happens is the first person who calls is going to go halfway around the world to grab it, and it's going to get loaded into the CDN, and then it's cached in the CDN basically until it's cleared or
Expires.
expired or yeah. And so then whoever else in Egypt is going to grab it then only grabs the one that's stored in the CDN. So it's just a forward cache. That's all it
Okay,
is.
so it's the
But
same
it's
concept as what I'm doing right now with Redis.
yeah,
Just
but it makes it more
difference is
accessible
dynamic
to a
versus static.
yeah, it makes it more accessible to a geographic location. So yeah. And it also there's other benefits in terms of like hiding the like better hiding of the source of where it's actually stored. Um,
Well, it has geo
but
filters, I think, right?
yeah, because you set your you set your, um, domain up to usually to point at the CDN, and then And then you can kind of like, if you wanted to move your blob storage around, you could, reset all your CDNs to point at something else rather than trying to set all of your things to point at the blob storage, I suppose.
So you have experience working with it. It sounds like it. It sounds like you're speaking from experience.
Yeah, I mean, we basically would store like our files for our we'd run our oh god, sorry, our like vue files are like our built websites in CDNs. So all of our front end code would be pushed to not at the current place I'm at, but and maybe at the current place I'm at, but um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's called CloudFront in AWS is what it is. So we'd basically point at CloudFront, and then CloudFront would point to our S3 buckets in AWS. It's the
S3
same kind of
bucket
setup.
is a resource group in Azure.
In AWS, S3 is a blob storage basically.
Oh, okay.
So it's the equivalent. Setting up a Cloudflare to point at a S3 is probably the equivalent of Azure CDN pointing to an Azure blob storage. So,
Okay. Got it.
but yeah, but that we do that so that the actual like SPA or the single page applications would load up faster in geographic areas.
Yeah, I haven't almost said I haven't wrote F sharp in a while, but I have because that was my last contract. I was pretty much a SDET or software development engineering test, writing a whole bunch of F sharp test scripts. But no, they say once you go black, you can never go back. Uh, Once you go F sharp, I don't know, man. It's just preferred over your your C sharp, I think. Unless I'm doing GUI development, then yeah, I'll go straight to like XAML.cs. But I don't know. I
Yeah,
guess
there's
it's just
some
required.
probably some lower level stuff that's easier in C sharp too. Anything that interacts with native or like required. I don't know. How would you do like like a map struct or something like that? Like a, I'm sure you can do it. I have no idea how it looks in F sharp.
You're saying how would I do a
You do
map
have
struct?
like a struct, but with and then do the map out the memory locations for each item. So
Who does
like,
that?
well, there's use cases for like certain high performance things with gaming or whatever, or like binary
So
protocols.
um give me a second. So a struct is different from a class because a struct gets allocated on the stack, where a class gets allocated. Well, an instance of a class gets allocated
Yeah,
on the
it's a
heap,
value.
right?
Yeah, it's a value type. Yeah, versus a reference type.
Um, so I don't think there's much difference. You would so in F sharp you could still code things the way that you would in C sharp. You
Yeah.
just don't need to have the semicolon is optional. So if I say let my what's an example of a struct?
Vector.
Would it be is time span a struct?
Make a vector, and say you want X to be laid out first in for sure in the memory layout. So vectors like X, Y. Um,
Oh, there's not an actual class called vector.
there isn't like mono game, but this is the only thing I could think of.
So am I declaring a struct? Is that what you're saying? Or am
Yeah,
I?
I want you to declare a
I
struct.
Yeah,
Like
I thought you
make
were saying take a type
no,
that is a struct from the .NET library or core library,
no.
whatever.
So you can declare. I'm wondering in F sharp, and I'm sure you can do this. I could probably ask ChatGPT how to do it, but like if you have like a struct, and you want to say that it contains, let's just say it's uh, a three-dimensional vector, so it's x, y, and z
Yeah.
dimensions, and you want to
So
say that the x is the first thing in the memory layout, the y is the second thing, and the z is the third thing. So I just don't. I don't even know how like structs look like in F sharp.
That's a good question because I don't think there's such a. I don't think you can. I don't have experience declaring a struct in F sharp.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious what that looks like.
Oh, okay. So where's an example? So they have this right here. Type
Struct. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's pretty
22D.
good. And then how do you specify though that the like the field offset? So um, that's the other bit. I, can you put? Do you have attributes in it? I wonder.
Hold up. You're saying how do you specify the field offset?
Yeah, if you wanted to say like the x is always at the 0th offset in memory, and then the y is the second offset in memory.
I don't know. I've never programmed that low in C sharp or F sharp.
I suppose I can just ask. Yeah, that's where I'm saying like I like know some of this stuff for. I'm curious if it's as easy in F sharp or not. Oh my god, my brain's like at half capacity this morning.
My workouts have been sucking. I was at the beach like 15 minutes prior to hopping on, and like I don't have endurance, man. I think I complain to you every single time.
Hmm.
Like something's not right with me, man. I don't know if it's really age kicking in as much, but like I tapped out yesterday in my workout. Like I don't have the endurance. All right, so how to find a construct layout limitation, passing. I'll put in offset. I'm not. Is there another term I
Yeah,
can put
it's
in?
field offset. I don't know. ChatGPT has like a lot of stuff because I asked it to convert some C sharp code into F sharp for a struct, but I don't know that it's right.
I would assume you do it the same way in C sharp. If you're asking how do you do that in C sharp,
Well, so in C sharp, it's you look up field offset. Um,
there's an offset from. Is that what you're talking about?
hold on.
No, hold on. This is. No, this is C plus plus. That's not C sharp. I don't know what that is.
It's the like physical position of fields within an unmanaged representation of a class or struct. You can do it with classes too, but so it's not just structs. But I was curious on how structs are. Just yeah, look up field offset attribute, and that's what it is in C sharp, like all one word field offset attribute, like a yeah. There you go.
I told you I never learned how to type. I still use my two middle fingers.
That's fine. There's a lot of people who do that.
That's how I say F you to the keyboard. All right.
So here, like in this one, it would say that at offset 0 is that OEM ID, and then at offset 8 bytes later is the page size, and 16 bytes later is the active mass processor, and then
So if I could guess, it would probably be something like this.
yeah, the ChatGPT said you needed like
Yeah, here we go.
no sweet like a Marshall as, but I don't think maybe it's not that way.
I still don't know what this stuff means, but
Well, so like okay, so you've got
it's
a
8. So everything is bytes or powers of
yeah,
2.
it's in bytes, I believe.
And what would be the purpose of that for optimizing, like, or for faster speed of reading stuff in
No,
the.
so
Okay.
if you need the memory to fit a specific sequence of bytes, so let's say you're receiving
Is that called a bitmap?
No, bitmaps are like when you map out the individual bits. But
Okay.
like if you have like a binary protocol, for instance, and you're saying, okay, in this chunk of memory, the 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 values are laid out like this. Like X consumes the first 8, and Y consumes the next 8 bytes, or bytes of data or whatever. And that would only be true with U-longs. I think floats are are single or like 4 bytes each, maybe. I think they are. I think doubles are 8 bytes.
I thought, yeah, I think you're right. I think doubles are 2 words. I thought a float was a word, and I thought a word
Yeah,
was 4 bytes.
float's 32, so it's 4 bytes. So and then double takes up 64, and a decimal takes up 16. Um, so yeah, this would be, in this case, what it would look like is like if you had, your structure would be like 8 bytes and then another 8 bytes, or 4 bytes actually, in the way that this is set up. Or it could be longer than that, but
It'd be 0 4, right?
yeah. But in C, like the way that you map out a struct maps into memory exactly like, um, maps out into memory exactly following the sequence of bytes, except for there's like a thing called padding where sometimes it doesn't. So byte padding, but
Mm, okay.
yeah.
I learned something that I doubt I will ever apply.
Yeah, unless you need to do like binary protocols or whatever, it's really not that useful. Or if you're like, basically what you do is you receive a bunch of unstructured memory and you want to put a map over that so you can access the memory, um, without in some structured way, but you need to map out where the different offsets within that memory are for the different things that you have. So if at byte 24 there's a 1-bit boolean or 1 byte boolean, you would map out the field offset for byte 24. Here's your one byte of boolean data based on the type byte, which is one byte, or bool, which is 1 byte. So
Mm.
but bitmaps are different. Bitmaps are, I don't know if you can do a bitmap in C#. I mean, you can do flags, I suppose. In C, there's a way to specifically like access bits using a struct. There's a special bitmap. And this is different than image bitmap, but
Hmm.
I'm gonna ask ChatGPT. It'll know probably because I'm using version 4. I'm not sure that that's right. I thought you had to put a special thing.
Did you purchase a subscription to ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Do you find it useful versus the free version?
You know what? I'd have to go back and try the free I mean, you can generate images is one thing, but I'd have to go back and try the 3.5. I know that on 3.5 with the subscription, it's a lot faster. Um, like it's incredibly fast versus GPT-4. But I think the stuff that it gives is better, like the results or whatever. But
Have you ever messed with Cosmos or any NoSQL database?
yeah, Mongo. I think I've touched Cosmos a long time ago, but I never really dug into it much. But yeah, Mongo I've used. Uh, and
Mm.
then, I mean, you could technically call, I mean, you could technically say that Elastic is a NoSQL database, but it's really not made for that purpose. It's a search engine, so it's not really wise to store your data in Elastic permanently. But no, I like just throwing shit in them in a bucket and calling it a day.
Is that what they call it?
No, I don't know. In a
What's a resource group in AWS called? A bucket?
resource group. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. So
I mean, it
Azure
might
has
be just be a resource group. I don't know.
so in Azure, it, so in Azure, a resource group is a logical container of provision cloud resources, which a resource could be like a service, such as, I guess, like for example, in AWS, it would be a Lambda function
Hmm.
or um, any service, right? Whether it's a database, compute service, etc. So maybe it's called bucket. Bucket sounds like the right term.
No, they've got AWS resource groups, tags, cloud formation, organizations. I don't know. Looks like a bunch of different things that they do.
Yeah, so I'll try to get in at least 4 hours a day trying to build all this stuff out. And I I try to restrict my. Do you ever struggle with being extremely detailed? Like, has that ever like hindered you?
Um, yes. I don't know if we're meaning the same thing or not. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So like,
overthinking for sure.
I have a habit of proliferating libraries within a solution.
Oh man, yeah, I've
And
gotten down to like trying to get like no libraries or the least amount of libraries possible.
yeah, so like, there's a part of me that wants to have a dedicated library for Redis, a dedicated library for Cosmos, and then a dedicated library to synchronize the two.
Yeah, I mean the benefit of that is that you've got as long as you've got an abstraction over it, you can
I mean, it's more composable if I wanted to like
yeah.
package each of them up.
Yeah, and then you plug in whichever one you want. If you're giving two options for the same thing, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because you're just building an adapter for some port or whatever.
This is my
You
test.
you ever look up port and adapter architecture? I don't. It seems so obvious, but like it's like
I confuse that with onion architecture. I don't know if they're really the same thing, and they're just
I think
synonyms
they
of each other.
are. Then hexagonal architecture is another name for
Yeah,
it, ports and adapters. But basically, you got a domain like a core, and then you've got ports into that core, and then you write adapters that go to specific things. So you've got like if you're writing to a database, you'll have a core thing that writes to a database that's a port abstraction, and then you have specific adapters into whatever technology you're going through. It's
yeah,
just a better way of laying it out than the like traditional layers where you're like, oh, here's this layer talks to this layer and shouldn't talk to this layer and blah blah blah. And but it doesn't. I don't know. It's just I think it's a better way
I
to
uh
describe that.
I tend to build vertical slices. So I'll take a subdomain, and each subdomain will have its own in layer architecture. So, for example, there will be a there will be a account library within my solution, in which the account library is a subdomain in which you could make a payment. You could look at your payment history, all that stuff relating to a user's account. And so I will have account.ui, account.viewModel, account.datagateway, and then that's it. And those are the like the three or so libraries just for that one subdomain. And then I'll have I don't know, a name something. I can't think of anything right now. Logistics library, and that will have its own in tier architecture.
Hmm.
And so, hence, when I said I like to proliferate libraries, it's there could be like five different subdomains of a solution that I'm building, and so it's common for me to have like like between 30 and 50 libraries or projects within a solution.
Vomit.
And I mean, I see, I totally see mainstream argument going against that. Uh, I do. So like the
Mhm.
consequences, the build time, um,
Yeah.
can take a while. Uh,
Configuring all of those things, and then like just the mental overhead of what's and where. Yeah. Like I
uh,
try to get like if you take a straightforward like CRUD type app where it's front to back, like I'd have potentially 3 projects max on that
the thing with me is I really like
within a
I
context.
really like code reuse. I really like having a library that I could just literally plug and play into a different project. And I don't think you really get that
Well, y-
in the 3 project solution. But if I say, like for example, this billable subscription solution that I have right here, this
mhm,
is this is intended to be abstract enough that for any product that you're building as software, in which you plan on having uh, a business model of a subscription, which could be trial, monthly, or free. I plan on this solution right here to be plug and play, where I don't have to rewrite this. I just literally
yeah,
write this one time, and then I can add it to a whole bunch of other solutions. And so that's
yeah. I
why I
wouldn't. I would.
proliferate hella libraries.
Yeah. See, to me though, that wouldn't be a library. It would be an. This would be an API that you might consume in another project, but you wouldn't actually like make this into a NuGet package and pull it in somewhere else.
Well, that was
Um,
my first thought, was making it into a NuGet package and pull it in somewhere else. Only
yeah.
because I mean, I have my profession hasn't really been an API developer. It's been mostly front end and back end services. But like, I mean, now that I've gone through this Azure certification that I keep failing, I think I have a appreciation for API management
Is
and the way you
so.
could bundle things in there.
So just to be clear, so like if you had 2 things within your ecosystem that had their own different billable subscriptions, you would have like a single. You'd have 2 different databases holding 2 different versions of this potentially.
Give me a second to process your question, because it's reminding me of something that I thought about yesterday. Okay, so you're gonna have to ask your question again, but let me before you do, let me just try to blurt out something. So yesterday I was like working on this, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's it's totally possible that there's going to be some operations that I don't want to expose to the end user, hence the customer, but would be totally relevant for an administrator or tech support.
Hmm.
And I was like, no, hell's bells. It's still within the domain, right? It still will be pulling from the database, but that customer doesn't need that information. Um, do I really create a separate solution just for a completely different user profile that would also need to access the same data store? And I'm thinking not every. And so I was like, this is probably where API management tends to be useful, so that I could segregate the different um, types of users by packaging up different types of products. Hence, this right here would be a customer product, but within Azure API management, aka APIM. But then I would have a separate Azure API management product, in which a product is a set of APIs, right? And that would be tailored towards admins or support. Okay, so you can ask your question again.
But they'd have the same database, right? So
It's the
I'm
same
what I
data store. It's
yeah.
just restrictions.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is an API gateway over an API into this so that you can control based on the user, you control what access they have or
Yes.
provide a different view over it. And you could also do it by providing like a specific API that you build separately that interacts with this. Or you could build two APIs within
Well,
it.
it's
Yeah. Or you just don't think of it as an API and you
yeah.
think of it
So
as like a here's my web application and my web application talks to what I'm wondering is are you making this because you said you'd package it up as a NuGet package and then just plug it in somewheres. But what I'm wondering then, because then it's like a library, it's like an embedded thing versus being a service that's
yeah, it
provided.
seems like it would be a SDK more than it would be an API, right?
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm
Uh,
wondering, are you building with billable subscriptions? Is this a service? Like you have
I'm going
a
to build an
billable
API.
subscription
I
and
just haven't added that
anything
yet.
that needs a billable subscription, you could plug into this. So and it's abstract enough where it's not bound to any particular use case. It's like you have some subscription that you need billed on a cadence or whatever, and this is where you register up what that is and then remove that registry or whatever, and you probably have some administration into it that's its own application or part of another application or a module within an application. But
Ye-
um, yeah,
yes. So it looks like maybe within this solution, I would add two more projects. Both of those projects would be APIs. One would be, or web APIs, whatever you want to call it. One would be customer. Other one would be support. I don't know.
see, I wouldn't if this is an internal only service. I would see this is where I would get down to three. I'd have three. I'd have a billable subscriptions core, which is basically like my uh, definition of all of the ports into it, and then all of the logic that's contained in it, and then I'd have um, an API that just is an API into those things. So it's an HTTP adapter into those ports, and then I'd have the data adapters in here for the storage part of it. And you might have another one for like if you had to run cron jobs or something. Although you can set that up separately to just call the API. But then I'd have separate applications that that use this, and you can control access for those applications, but those applications would define how the customer interacts with it. So your UI or whatever your application is going to be way different for some sort of consumer app that's just using this to register subscriptions and unregister them, and something else that actually administers the whole thing. So retries and views into what subscriptions there are and all that whatever. So I don't know if that makes any sense.
You're saying you would have a separate solution for your APIs?
I'd have I'd have a separate project in here just to define the API
Yeah,
into
yeah,
the
like
service. It's but it's a broad API. It's here's the API into this, and it's got all the you might have different controllers or whatever, different endpoints for administration versus more consumer focused endpoints. Um,
oh,
but that's just a usage pattern. It's not.
so you would have one web API in here that covers everything, and then you would just put constraints on each endpoint of that API.
Yeah, yeah, to define like if you're trying to
Okay.
control if you're trying to control like permissions, um, based on like an API key or something, right? So if this is an internal API that other things are using, um, you might have a consumer app that has permission to, based on its API key, to add a billable subscription or turn off a billable subscription or whatever, or disable one, and then update it, and that's all it does. Like it can't do anything else. But you might have like a another admin application that would have an API key that, based on its API key, could have permissions to do well anything. Fix data or delete them or update them or post thing or retries. View the actual like outcomes of things, like anything you could think of that would fit into this type of deal. So,
Mm.
um, but then you could have many different applications that decide to use the bill of subscription service, and um, so it'd be kind of multi-tenant within that. But you would never need to, presumably, you would never need to write a more than one billable subscription service if you build it right.
I'm getting overwhelmed. This stuff
I don't
is
get overwhelmed.
this is a public repository. If you ever wanted to check it out, I still gotta
Not
figure out
storing
what.
your secrets out there, are you?
No, it's in my config file. It's
Oh, do you hide your configs, or do you use the secrets within .NET or in Visual Studio to
it's,
keep
it's
them
in this
separate?
file right here.
But
um,
that gets pushed to the.
no, it doesn't.
Oh,
Just
did
ignore
you?
it.
Oh, you have it ignored.
Yeah.
Uh,
You mean who 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 checks in their config file?
no, I'm not. Well, so like, there's a way in Visual Studio to define all your configs. Okay, so do you have like an actual abstract configuration file, and then this is just the specific values?
My config file is this right here. It so if I were to go to my test,
Yeah.
the key value pairs are
Okay. Yeah.
this, yeah, this right
Yeah.
here.
So in there's a way in Visual Studio to say, here's my actual like app config, and then you can give it like dummy local values that you don't care about, or like just a replace. I think you can just leave it blank even, and then you can define secrets in Visual Studio that will get put into those app config files. So at least in C Sharp, I'm not sure how it all, or in the way that .NET's set up, but um, because like
Uh,
if you right click on a project in F Sharp, in
so
do you have the
what,
option to put user secrets in there?
are you talking about Azure Key Vault? Are you
No, no, no,
talking?
no, no. This is a Visual Studio feature.
No, I'm
So
not familiar. I'm not familiar with that feature. What I am familiar with, which is admittedly ugly, is putting pound ifs to check what the compiler is set to, whether the compiler is set to dev, test, or prod,
so like
and
in the
then
C.
and then have your different assignments pointing to your connection string based on what compiler setting you're in. So,
Okay.
for example, I think we talked about this like a year ago. Uh, I don't know if this works. If what is it? If debug or something like that.
Yeah.
And then another one would
Uh,
be like if prod or something,
so that
in which that stuff would be set up here, right?
yeah, because
Or
those
one
are
one
compile
of
time
these.
ones. But so like in C Sharp, how if you do an ASP.NET Core like API, right? What you'll get is an app settings uh, file, or an app settings.json or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
and then you'll
App,
have like an app settings
app
dot
settings dot local
development or
dot JSON.
JSON, and yeah, or local, and it's all configured based on which environmental variable is set at the time. So like locally, when you run it in Visual Studio, you would define what that environment variable is in your startup, but you don't actually have to store secrets in there locally, so you never check in local secrets. You actually run. So right, just humor me.
Yeah,
Right click
I'm
on.
used to doing things manually where I'll have a local configuration file. I still prefer XML files, hence app configs or whatever,
Yeah.
even though things are JSON now. But I've always manually, when I publish the assembly, I would go into Azure and then I would manually type in all the entries for my configuration. If
Okay,
you know
so
what
you're
I'm
not
saying.
using, yeah, you're not using like Azure Secrets then at that point, or Secrets Vault, so
I do use Key
or
Vault,
config.
but I've been
Yeah.
doing it painfully manually,
Oh,
where it's because I didn't know that there is a alternative, where like
No, I think you would still do that for production and stuff. What I'm talking about is this is like the pattern for in C# for keeping like your secrets out of GitHub, for instance. So just humor for a second. If you right click on that billable subscription test API, or
Okay.
I don't know if these are different kinds of
That's just a
projects.
common C# or F# library,
Yeah,
but
do you
okay.
have the options to, and maybe you have to do it on a specific
Yeah,
type of thing,
yeah
but there's
there's
like
no
a,
executable in here. All these are just basic libraries.
yeah, so it might be a specific type of, I haven't looked at this feature in a while, but
Well, no, no,
I don't
no.
know.
Test is a console. Can you package a? Here's a publish. You told.
No, here I'll find an article and I'll send it to you because it's like,
All right.
yeah, it's like Visual Studio. It's called, yeah, Visual Studio User Secrets.
Oh yeah, and I also plan on running this as a container, which should be interesting. Again, all this is for me to have hands-on experience, so I can retake my test, my certification.
Yeah, it's called Manage User Secrets. Here's a yeah. I'm out fishing, Gambler. How's it going tomorrow? So, well, today I've got to drive, but I sent you a link to an example of like how it looks in, at least in like .NET land or in C# land and Visual Studio. But there's this managed user secrets option within
Code
Visual
project. What is
Studio.
this from the '90s?
Yeah, I know, it's like every once in a while you find shit on code projects, but it's
It's like
like
no,
this
it's
is a,
2022.
yeah, I'm just surprised that I couldn't find like an, it just here's the Visual Studio documentation for it. But oh, manage user secrets, Microsoft Learn. Oh, this is a video though. I don't know. .NET Core user secrets. But anyways, user secrets are, it's a feature of Visual Studio where you're able to like put all of your secrets in this separate file that is basically hidden, and it's all plugs in through the DI pipeline or whatever.
Oh yeah, I never knew
But
about it.
yeah, I don't know how that all works with F#. That's just like the minutia of it.
No, there's really no difference, uh, infrastructure wise between F# and C#.
Yeah, but you don't really use dependency injection,
Who
the
says that?
like a container, right? You don't use Microsoft dependency injection for F#, do you?
You can.
I know you can, but do you? Like, I don't know
You,
what the,
you
so
use
there's a
high.
difference
You,
between like what you can do and what's idiomatic, right?
what's idiomatic is using high level functions, meaning that
Yeah,
you,
because you
you
want
you
everything to be
pass functions
predictable.
as parameters,
Yeah,
and then within the server, it takes that function and then plugs in arguments to have that function realize and execute.
yeah.
Like
Which
15
is the
years
same
ago,
thing
I would
as
be
interfacing.
speaking Romulan. I would have no clue what I just said 15 years ago.
But it's really not different than injecting in an interface. That's all you're doing is passing a high level function in.
Yeah.
It's just you can have potentially multiple high level functions with the same backing, like information in the back. Like that's all it is. It's the same. Like an implementation of an interface is just a bunch of high level functions with the same closure, right? It is basically how it's all set up. I
No,
wonder if
thanks,
this
bro.
person's a bot or not.
No, did they pass a link?
Savelar just says hi. So
Hi, Sac DV. Yeah.
must be like a .NET library since the name ends with a capital R.
Or they could be Russian.
Like mediator,
Russian.
signal R. Yeah.
It'd be an interesting war. Who do you think will win between Russia versus Brazil in a conventional war?
So like non-nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
I'd assume Russia.
You, taking into consideration guerrilla tactics, you still say Russia?
Yeah, but I guess it depends on how you define victory in a war too, though. Like, because they would probably have like an Iraqi situation, like we military operations are complete, but once you take over, then it's like, well,
The
now you've got
occupation.
yeah, the occupation becomes a problem. So one side's still at war, the other thinks it's won.
Yeah.
Like Afghanistan was won a long time ago. Conventionally, it was won, but it never took hold.
Like the closest I get to seeing who will win is when I watch UFC fights between Brazilians and Russians. That's it. So
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even really know I know that Brazil isn't like a sneeze at type country, but I just don't know what its military capabilities are or what its. You just don't hear much about South American countries on the world stage.
oh, I think you got me hit. I thought you were the one that mentioned brick, or was it somebody
Yeah,
else
BRICS. Yeah, I might have mentioned it. The currency that they're doing.
that they're trying
Brazil,
to do,
Russia,
or is
India,
it the thing?
China, and they're building it because they have to like. There's a lot that has to be in play, but I think they've got to collect because it's going to be all precious metal backed currency. So they've got to collect all the precious metals to back the currency. But I don't really know what all the steps in implementing that are. But
Why
the
does it have to
idea
be
is that
precious?
eventually you get away from the dollar, and then you don't have to deal with the U.S. having control over so much.
Why does it have to be precious metal?
Because well, it doesn't have to be. It just has to be backed by something.
It should be
Precious
backed
metals are
by.
always worth something. So
It should be backed by uranium. That's
yeah,
precious, right?
it could be precious. Yeah, I mean, it's
But
got to
it
be a
but it
precious metal.
depletes. Metals don't. Uranium does, right? Doesn't uranium have like a what does isotope mean? Does that mean like a half life over a certain period of time or
I think
something, or is
that's
that
like it's radiation or something, but I assume that uranium stays uranium. I just
no?
don't
They
know about it.
deplete. That's the whole reason why they lose power over time,
Well,
and
what does
that's
it
why
become into then?
converts into. I mean, energy is neither destroyed nor created,
Unless they're
right?
like
It's
ripping
just
atoms
converted to
off of
something
it or
else.
whatever. So like, I don't really don't know.
They lose protons or
Yeah, same
electrons, and they
element.
become other elements.
Yeah,
No,
so it's
they convert to
still.
other elements.
Well, Gamler says isotope is some element but different number of protons, right?
I don't know. I just know that it depletes. But when I say it depletes, it there's less uranium, and then it turns into something else over time.
Oh, 1 second. Let's say goodbye to my kids here since I won't see him. Love you. Um. So like, one of my favorite quotes now is, "Did you know that there are more hydrogen atoms in a single atom of water than there are stars in our solar system?" It just sounds like one
Yes,
of those.
it's one star in our solar system.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know, it just sounds so. That quote's been making around like, oh, because it sounds like there are more atoms in whatever than there are what. There are more sand on the stars in the sky than sand on a beach or whatever. Like one of those kinds of things. But when you think about it, it's like if anybody ever says like, hey, are you worried about the proliferation of dihydrogen monoxide on the planet? Like, um,
Yeah, anxiety automatically starts bubbling up.
yeah, but what is dihydrogen monoxide?
I don't know, but anything that has a prefix of D, it sounds like catastrophic.
Well, it's dihydrogen.
Dehydrate,
Well, no, dihydrogen.
denazify,
What's dihydrogen?
de, huh?
What's dihydrogen?
I would think it's losing hydrogen.
Oh, dihydrogen is two hydrogen molecules. Yeah, it's water, Gamma. Dihydrogen monoxide. Single oxygen.
No, I was watching. It's interesting you mentioned the whole astronomy thingy. I was watching some YouTube astronomy videos last night because that's what I do when I get tired of watching like cartel killings. I switch to astronomy. That's my
Mhm.
like nightly programming. And so it was this. I think he was a professor or something of astronomy, and he was at some campus, and he was wearing like a billboard over his neck, um, inviting people to put into order the size of celestial bodies, hence Earth, Moon, Sun, Galaxy, and Universe.
Okay.
And I understand that
They
it's
couldn't get it.
entertaining. It's entertaining to viewers to only show the people that couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. They find like 100 people that know it, and then like two people that are stoned and are like, "Oh, what?"
But I still find it fascinating that at a college campus, there were like 5 people that were featured that didn't know.
Must be white meth heads.
No, I think this guy was careful. He made sure to what's the word we're looking for, to diversify.
Oh,
So uh, they were all young for the most part. So it was black. It was a white dude, black dude,
yeah.
obviously, uh, black girl,
Then, anyways, oh darn.
and yeah.
I was
So
just joking, by the way.
It was distributed across ethnicities.
Hmm.
But like one is they it was disappointing, and I felt like this was only in America and never in China. They were like asking if the moon was bigger than the sun, and then he was asking questions about how many stars are in uh any arbitrary galaxy, and people were like saying probably an average of 20.
Yeah, no, it's a lot, but I couldn't give you an average. I don't
Well,
no idea.
I knew it was in the billions. I wasn't sure if it was a billion or if it was like if it was like 500 billion. And the answer was on average. I mean, you have different types of galaxies. You have like two categories of galaxies.
Hmm.
Um, but in general, it's like 100 billion. So I was almost right?
Yeah.
But
There's something that always thought that was trippy that I think Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about is that because right now we can observe other galaxies, we know that they're there, right? But eventually the universe grows so far that we can't, they don't you can't actually see the other galaxies anymore. And so in the future they'll have to assume that we were correct like now in observing that these other galaxies existed. Then it makes you think like what has already happened that we missed that we can't observe anymore. It's like, whoa.
um, yes and no. Galaxies are still. So what? I think you're referring to like dark matter or whatever.
Yeah,
But
I don't know what
like
the
we're
phenomenon
colliding
is,
with
but
Andromeda, right?
yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It might take another 2 billion years, but
Yeah, it'll be long after we're gone. Well, maybe we won't be. Maybe we all reincarnate and we just change to another. Who knows?
the
A
question
lot of shit
is,
can happen.
are there federated galaxies that we don't know about? That's really like Star Trek, where you literally have planets going to war with one another.
Well, it wouldn't be galaxies though, because the Star
Well,
Trek was all within our galaxy, like one
yeah, but so
different quadrants and
so
stuff.
something I wonder is if there's aliens out there that have made contact with other aliens in another galaxy.
Oh,
If they have evolved that much, where they're beyond their star system, they're beyond their galaxy, and now they're beyond their galaxy.
yeah, maybe.
Uh, but then that would mean that they would have conquered the speed of light constraint.
Yeah, maybe.
and their civilization would have lived long enough to evolve. Which, I mean, you can only speak for humans, right? But I think it would probably take a human, or the human race, I would argue, probably another 500,000 years, and that's just an ignorant guess, for them to resolve the speed of light constraint to really um, conquer other stars.
Wasn't
And
the isn't the entire idea of what's possible is that the only real way to to do that is to bend space in a way that you
no,
can.
not at all. It's to take psychedelics, and
Yeah,
then yeah, and then you
well,
can
that
time
too.
travel.
I mean,
But
psychedelics.
well, it's what's that? I can't remember the name. Coupier warp drive. Well, it was a Mexican that came out the equation that on paper was validated by the international community. It's
Yeah, isn't
just
the simple explanation you have a piece of paper and you say this is space and you're trying to get from here to here, but this is too far. But if you take the piece of paper and you fold it, then you're here and you can just get to the other side, punch the other side, and then when you unfold the paper again, now you're over here. And that's
that's a
the whole
wormhole.
like but that's the idea behind the drive, right? Is that it bends space, it brings the space to you so you can jump into it and then
Oh
unfolds it again so that you're back on and now you're on the other side of wherever you're going.
yeah, I don't
I thought
know.
that was the way that it was structured
I got
anyways.
lost after the first like 5 seconds of
it
of the introduction. Stuff like.
it totally makes sense. You just need a piece of paper and yeah.
Well, I think you need like an entire like you need all the mass of like of a star system to convert into energy or propellant in order to make that happen. It was
No,
something
because
like
it's
that.
isn't you need a lot of energy to do it, but it's not like it's not like propellant though. You're not trying to go shoot out gas out your butt to try to get there. You're literally doing like using energy to bend space time, like a black hole does. I mean, or whatever,
Well, I gotta be black
because it's really dark. I didn't say
and
brown hole.
and dangerous.
It's really dark and dangerous. Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah. So, I plan on wrapping up with this billable solution thing probably by like next Friday. And then I got to do content delivery network, which is a separate solution in which I'll migrate out the images on the mobile app. I'm getting overwhelmed thinking about all this stuff
well, you don't because where are your images stored now? Aren't they just in a blob storage?
on the client application.
Oh, so you're gonna load them from
Again,
your
all this is
CDN.
for me to pass this freaking test that I keep failing. It's the only reason. So
Yeah. Well, I'm ice fishing the next couple days, which
yeah,
basically means sitting in a hut drinking. So
I think you're lying. I think you tell your wife you're going ice fishing, and you tell me to try to validate it. What are you really doing?
yeah,
No one
that's
does
right.
that.
Yeah, they do. It's huge up here, man. There's tons of people that go up. Although we finally just got the approval to drive half-ton trucks out on the ice yesterday, so or today. Like this is the first day, so it's a little sketchy. Like it's a little concerning, but we've had a cold snap, so we should have enough ice to drive out a truck on it. But
Have you ever seen people of color also enjoy this hobby of yours?
there's, I mean, I'm sure I would if there were a lot up here. I,
So the answer is no. It's pretty
yes, no,
much
I just saw a
biking
picture on
white
face.
men that you see
I just saw
ice
a
fishing.
picture of someone on Facebook yesterday. I think. Now, granted, I
That's
don't
fake
think he was
news.
black. I think he was like Hispanic or something, maybe. But
Same thing as a person of color.
yeah, so is it? White's a color, though. Isn't it? Oh man.
Like my argument is, you know how like huskies are kind of like they're
Or
genetically
just someone who's Asian. Uh,
they're genetically, what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out with the vocabulary.
who? What are what?
They're genetically fit to endure cold weather, right? Huskies and
Yeah.
wolves and polar bears. Like I think Caucasians are genetically fit to endure cold weather, and like purposely
Yeah.
go out on a frozen lake and to have fun. And I just don't think other ethnicities are genetically predisposed for that type of torture.
Well, yeah, it's the adaptation of our well, really isn't it the adaptation of our skin color is what makes us more because like it's like being white, you can absorb sun rays better, make vitamin D,
You have thinner
which is really
noses,
required, right?
thinner nostrils.
Yeah. So we
You
have an
don't
like
you don't have
our
black nostrils that are just huge, sucking up all the white man's air. No,
I wish I had a bigger
you guys have
nostril.
nasals. Black people have nostrils. So
But isn't that the thing? Like, if you put someone who's dark skinned in like a place where that you don't get a lot of light, they're just going to be miserable half the time because
I don't think
they can't
that's
absorb.
scientifically proven. I just think that
Well, you can't absorb the like you don't absorb the sun as much. Like, and it's the opposite of you put white guys in the sun and they get tan because they're trying to absorb less sunlight or they get burned. You know.
um yes and no. So if you think about post World War II, a lot of you people moved down to Argentina, right? And so yeah, well, hold on. Argentina is like on the southern half, so it gets cold down there too, right? That's
Well,
not like,
that's something that boggles my mind too. Is like, is it like was there? Well, no,
it's not
because
like they
there's
moved
like
to like Ecuador or Latin America. They moved to the southern
does
tip of South
does
America.
does like South because okay, so you've got
Okay, South
Australia,
Africa is a good one.
Australia and South Africa. Both are like at the bottom of the world, right? And like the Aborigines are very dark people, and I assume that the people who are in South Africa. So do you not get like massive winters? Or is the sun tilt like, I just don't understand. Like, do they get a shit ton of snow in Australia?
I don't think so. I
It's
know
like
it gets
desert.
I have family over there. I know it gets cool over there, but I don't think I don't think it snows.
It's like, here's Antarctica, it's, like, down here and shit ton of snow and ice, and then just right above it, here's, Australia, and I don't really hear about, like, "Oh, boy, Australia got hammered with snow today," you know? It's not like you hear, like, Australia or, like, Alaska and Canada and Russia, Siberia.
Did Aborigines get wiped out like Native Americans? I mean,
Did
it's an entire continent.
no, they're still there.
Do they? Because I don't see them on TV.
no, they have representation on TV. It's a similar like colonization type thing as
Are there more white
everywhere that
people than
the English.
Aborigines in Australia?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think so.
that's my question.
I mean, I'd assume so. In the same way that but there are Aborigines and there's an Aboriginal culture in Australia, and
So,
it's
so if this hear out the logic, right?
mhm.
I'm not trying to put you down, but how can a set of people migrate to another land far away and then out reproduce the indigenous people within 400 years without wiping them out in the process? You mean to tell me that Aborigines were practicing safe sex for the last 400 years or longer before Europeans came over?
Well, no, I mean, I'm assuming that there was some sort of like not genocide. Well, I mean, probably like to a certain
Well,
extent.
I was thinking like disease,
Because
you
like,
know, like
what was
smallpox and
it?
stuff.
Because some of the eastern Indian tribes in America got completely wiped, didn't they? When they came over. So, like, or when we came over. I guess I don't know. It's like not me. I'm just here.
The answer is yes, and the proof is Jamaica.
Yeah, yeah. So
Like, there's no indigenous people in Jamaica.
yeah,
They're
but there
black
are
or
yeah,
white.
but there are yeah. Disease does a lot. Actually, that's a big point. But there's some there was this show. I want to say it was called like God. I can't remember. There's if you watch Netflix, there's some shows that are based in Australia, and they usually bring up
When animals
they
attack.
no, they've got like different like there's this one where these people came back from the dead randomly, and like so it was this whole like I don't know whatever, but they have an Aborigine person in there, and just in various things. It's I think it's a very similar culture where it's there's like people who are Aboriginal get have a certain level of like racism or whatever,
Yeah, I heard they're
and
treated like crap.
blah blah blah. Yeah,
I've seen one movie that starred an Aboriginal or whatever the term is. That's it. I don't see them on TV. They,
yeah. If you watch, like I said, if you watch,
they're like Telemundo and Univision. They don't show the actual natives at all.
yeah, if you watch shows that are made in Australia, you'll catch them. Um, but it's just they're very similar to like Native Americans in the United States in the way that they're portrayed in the way that they like live, and I don't know. I think at least that's what I'm
They
getting
have
from like
face paint and they
the little bit of
and all that stuff, and they have
no
baseball teams and football
no
teams
there's
that
a
exaggerate their features and they make them their
I don't know,
icons.
maybe there's the Australian Aborigines or something like that. I don't know. But regardless, they're all dark skinned, so I assume that they don't get massive like is the sun tilt or is the earth
The,
tilted in a way so that like
yeah, it's a
so
rotisserie.
that the northern half always gets a lot of is much colder than the southern half? Or is it just like there's that much distance
No,
between
because the
like
Earth
the
is still
bottoms of
rotating around the sun, right? While it's tilt and spinning.
yeah.
And so,
I just don't understand why I don't hear about like I guess it's the same reason why you don't hear about tornadoes outside of the United States. Like I don't know. You ever hear about a tornado in another country?
no.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that. It's because our geography is like of the United States is like is conducive to tornadoes, which it isn't like in very much in any other place in the world. But um like yeah, just
No. You say, are you saying only tornadoes, or are you also including water spouts? Because I'm pretty sure water spouts happen probably in a lot of places.
I don't know
That's
about water
over the
spouts, man.
ocean, right?
Yeah, yeah. But like hurt tornadoes on land and twisters, like they're very like unique to
Gambler is
the
smart
US.
as hell.
Yeah.
Also, mountain ranges and large-scale ocean currents, etc., have a huge influence, like
Yeah.
Europe has quite. Yo,
Yeah,
man.
so we're frigid even though we're at the same latitude as like or longitude is it longitude? I can't remember which
Yeah,
one's the
yeah.
horizontal one.
Oh, you mean the
But if
prime
you look at
meridian?
yeah, the prime meridian, yeah. But where are we like so I think we're at the same place as like Korea and like and where I am in Minnesota is like goes through the middle of like France. And I
What
know they have winters in France, but
if you were to drill straight, if you were to dig a hole and come out on the other end of the
no,
tunnel?
if you're just to draw a straight line across the world, like the United Kingdom's more north than I am, but their winters aren't as frigid as what we
Who
get.
says this? Really?
What? Yeah, look at a map.
I think they freeze.
But not as much as we do. I mean, I don't hear about -40 below in the UK.
Have you lived in the UK?
No, but they have
I
the
don't think
ocean.
I don't think the UK reports that Minnesota was -10 degrees
But
today.
they have like a yeah, they have they have like the ocean has a big impact on the way that their thing is, which is why you don't hear about -40 below in Seattle probably.
Okay.
Because like I mean I'm sure it happens, but like I think Seattle is more northern than I am, but you don't hear about -40 below in Seattle, like not like you do in North Dakota, even though they're at the same like distance from the equator. You know, like you get winters, but it's a different kind of winter, and they get a lot more precipitation in the UK. I mean, they get cold, but they don't get frigid Arctic air like we do.
So this
And
is
it's
what
the
we
same thing with tornadoes. Like they don't get tornadoes because I think it's like the wind coming down off the air coming down off the mountains is what causes that whole. I don't know.
this is what we should do. We should acquire a minor league sports team. And what town you live in?
Brainerd, Minnesota.
Brainerd.
Brainerd.
Brainerd. We should
Yeah.
name them the Brainerd Mandingos and have a African big nose, big lip um, icon, and the same thing what they do with the Cleveland Indians,
Yeah. Or the
right?
Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, and see if that's acceptable, and it should be.
Yeah. I
Else
don't know the Minnesota. Why is the Minnesota Vikings acceptable?
the because they glorify the Vikings,
That's what they did with like. So
and
like
and they don't exaggerate. Do they exaggerate the facial features of a Viking on their
yeah, very very yellow hair and very like stark looking face. Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know anybody who looks like the Minnesota Vikings logo.
yeah, but it doesn't look. Maybe you're
Well,
right.
so the
It
Cleveland
it
Indians are one thing, yeah. But
it
like
doesn't look degrading like the
look
Cleveland
up
Indians.
look up the
You
so
you
that
if you look at the Cleveland Indian icon, it looks very degrading, but it's
yeah.
normal to us.
Yeah, well no, it's not, but if you look at like was it the Redskins or if you look at the Fighting Sioux or the Blackhawks, they okay, so like the Fighting Sioux was the UND hockey team. And if you look up what happened there, from what my understanding is that the Sioux have like two tribes. And the North Dakota ones wanted to keep the Sioux as the name of the UND thing because they're like, oh, like this is about us, it's culture, it's near us, it's like we're the Fighting Sioux, whatever. But the South Dakota Sioux were like, no, we don't want that, and so they had to change their name. Now they're like the Fighting Hawks or whatever. But
Mhm.
there's nothing you don't look at the logo and go, oh man, that's degrading I mean, they look like fierce warriors, like you would expect them to be, just like the Minnesota Vikings. You look like fierce Vikings. That's what you expect them, and there isn't. I don't really take it as like, oh, you're making, degrading these people. The
The
Cleveland Indians,
Cleveland
yes,
Indians is degrading.
yeah, yeah. It's a caricature. It fits into that kind of animation style, but but a lot of these other ones, it's as far as I know, it's not.
The Brainerd Mandingos.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, but I don't know. Back to the weather thing too. It's interesting. Even in Minnesota, there's a bit of this difference. So if you're by a lake or whatever, the Duluth, which is on Lake Superior, like you can be down underneath. So there's like basically like there's a big hill that you go down, and then you're at basically Lake Superior, right? And if you're on this side of the hill, you can have everything be clear. It be kind of like, you know, warmish, and then look up and everything up here is just covered in snow, or like it's like foggy or raining, and it's just completely two different atmospheres just
Yeah,
between those two
I
spots
heard similar
because of
things
the
about
lake.
living out in I thought I heard similar things about either LA or Seattle where like you could drive 2 hours anywhere and see a completely different like season.
Yeah, yeah.
I forgot what city it was.
And it's like it'll be like 100 degrees on the top of the hill and like 60 degrees on the bottom. It's nuts. But that's the lake effect and the weather and how like being close to water bodies affects like all that.
Do
So
you ever go skiing?
No, I haven't been skiing in a long time. Like we have ski hills, but they're small hills. I've never been. I
Ever
mean, I
since I saw
would.
the movie, what's that movie, Hot Tub? I can't
Hot tub
remember.
time machine.
Yeah, I was curious about trying out skiing.
Yeah, or oh, what was that other one called? It was a like an older '90s film with Zach Galifianakis in it.
I have
Um,
no clue who that is.
but it's a ski hill. But
You
yeah,
mean
yeah.
you mean Zach Morris?
Who?
Zach Morris, wasn't he head of, or not head of class? From what school? With Lisa, AC Slater, the other dude that died 5 years ago, Screech. They went to Belmore
Oh,
Academy.
yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
Um, I can't remember the name of the show. But I
Was
thought
it?
the
It
lead
wasn't
character was
Beverly
Zach Morris.
Hills, was it? Beverly Hills 902? No, that was.
No, that was 10 years before that.
Oh my God, I know what you're talking. No, I remember Screech.
I, it's
And it,
it's it's all right because Saved by the Bell.
Saved by the Bell. That's
Notice I
right.
had to sing the song to figure out the the name of
Oh,
it.
Out Cold's the movie I was thinking about.
Saved by the Bell. Yeah, Lisa looks horrible. I don't know if you remember Lisa. Lisa was a black girl, and she tried to get some cosmetic surgery, and it got botched, and that's why she doesn't show up at any of their reunions.
Oh man, that sucks.
You know, she was hot. I had a crush on her when I was like in
She tried to get a nose
sixth
job.
grade. I think so. She
So is
looks
it like
bad.
I was watching something TikTok or something the other day, and it was I think it was Candace Owens was like is like number one rule for black people: don't get nose jobs, because everyone will suck. Like we don't have the some sort of like she's like we don't have this certain like cartilage or something to do nose jobs. So, but nose jobs on most women look terrible. Like there's a few that you've come away with like oh yeah they're not bad, but like dude there's this show called The Boys on Netflix, and man you should see this the gal who plays this character Starlight. She went from a really attractive gal to like just ugh because she got like a crap ton of
Sounds like one of the Kardashians. They just look weird.
yeah like I just don't get it. Like I get like there's subtle ones that I've seen, but where it's like yeah I took the bump off my nose or something like that.
Yeah, whatchamacallit, John Simon said he had a nose job. Which I'm like,
Yeah,
why?
yeah, but yeah I don't know.
You should get a Brazilian butt lift.
If I was to do anything, I'd get a nose job, but it would only be I'd want to open my nasal passages more because if I'm running, I've got to mouth breathe, which is not as good. I just can't get enough air through my nose.
I would get a reduction.
It would be reduced to nothing because that's you'd be look like Michael Jackson.
No, I'm not talking about my nose.
Oh, I gotcha. All right.
And on that note, yeah, it was great talking to you. And
Yeah.
I'm
Normal
not
time next week.
I'm noticing a lot of these YouTube thumbnails, or I almost guarantee that these are ChatGPT created. These
on
images,
on which ones?
like I'm looking at, so, I don't know if you can see this,
Oh yeah, yeah.
but they look like they were
We should start. You should
generated,
start generating like mastermind things. Like, I wonder if you
and
could
we
take the
should
transcript.
exaggerate the facial features.
So like, I can't remember in YouTube. Can you access the transcript that they used for because they subtitle everything eventually, don't they? Like CC it.
I think there's a transcript on there.
I wonder if you could get a transcript, throw it in, and be like, Chat GPT, make an image
Cartoon.
for this masterminds episode, and then just use that as back as the the image. I wonder what they would come up with.
I want to ask ChatGPT to take a screenshot of us talking and then exaggerate our features to the stereotype, and then we could publish that as a thumbnail.
Oh, so I've done that before. What I did is it was a fun game. Put an image into ChatGPT, have it describe it in detail, and then use that description to generate an image, and it never turns out the way you expect. It's complete. It's always way different.
You know, it'd be a funny
Fun
skit.
though.
You know, when you go to like a festival and you'll see an artist that will draw like animated pictures
Yeah,
of
caricatures. Yeah.
people. Like I want to. They should have a skit on the racist one where like he just puts in watermelon in someone's hand and like like
Oh,
that'll be funny.
there's this one I caught where they were doing that, and this gal, she's this like kind of skinnier gal, and she's got like this mouth full of like hardware,
Hmm.
braces or whatever. And he draws her like with this smile, like up like this, like a Cheshire cat with all these like metal things.
What you said it's called
It's
caricature?
caricature, yeah, yeah.
Hold on, let
It's
me
fun
look
to,
for it.
yeah, caricatures. It's fun to draw.
YouTube.
You just basically come up with like different accents that whatever. But
Oh, I thought it was gonna be spelled with a ch. That's interesting. Oh wow, they do exaggerate it.
yeah, that's why like the Cleveland Indian one is a caricature of an Indian. It's a caricature. It's not a like representation of them like a real.
I wonder how many people like get offended.
Wonder if I can find that. I don't know if it's on YouTube
Oh
Shorts of
god,
that.
I might binge watch these videos. I didn't even know there was a. I didn't even know that there was a category on YouTube for showing it.
For caricature drawing.
Yeah, because a lot of it looks offensive.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the point. It's not really. I mean, it's not to me offensive, but that's how you come up with a character, someone, and then it's the same thing. That's what like 90% of those like newspaper political cartoons are caricatures of people, right? It's exaggerated features so that you know who they are, because they're just you take them, you draw them, but you exaggerate their features and really hone in on them. Like how Trump has got, he always has like fairly big. He's got kind of a pouty face in them. His hair is always, really
or
pushed out.
or Nixon, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could probably draw like I don't know, I don't know what Biden's would be, but would be some sort of like geriatric old man. I'm sure. Weird ears, ice cream. I don't know.
That's
That
another.
so here's the prediction that I heard that I really think makes sense. Biden's gonna drop out after all the primary season is done. So March time, like once Super Tuesday and all that go through, and he's the nominee, um, at least. But before the actual convention, he's gonna drop out, and then the DNC is gonna be like, we already voted on all this stuff, but now we don't have a candidate, so they're gonna hand pick somebody to replace him. It'll probably be Newsom from
Here's what I think.
because then they don't have to deal with like Bernie Sanders people or any of the like pro-Palestinian groups or whatever. They can just pick whoever they want.
Here's what I think. The migrants south of the border. I think that was all designed with intent for us to go to war, and instead of drafting, we send the migrants, or
Oh,
they
like
send the
here's
migrants.
your gain your citizenship here, fight for
I can't think of any other reason why leadership would think that this is acceptable.
it. Well,
Tax
they said it's about
dollars in the
it's
middle of a
about
recession, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, taxpayers are paying for this.
yeah, but part of it was for redistricting and trying to get like they literally said the quiet part out loud. They like like there's this gal caught on the mic or not caught, she was talking and she's like, I welcome this, like this will help with all my redistricting and I'll make it sure that this is a blue whatever, because they assume that Mexican immigrants are going to be Democratic voters, which was true for a while, but I don't think it's going to be true for forever. They'll be like the Cubans when they came here eventually swapped over to being more of a
No,
Republican
this
base.
only makes sense to basically throw people into the battlefield for a
Maybe
future
both.
for a
Maybe both.
future first world conflict
Yeah,
with the
maybe
United
both.
States. That's the only thing I could think of is you basically
Or it's for voting. It's because they don't people don't check federal
it's not for
votes.
voting. That's going to take like another 10 to 20. They have to reproduce. Like
You're
they'll
telling
be
me that
they'll
12
be
million people.
residents. Hold up, residents do not vote, do they? Do you not have to be a United States citizen to be a United States resident? That doesn't give you voting rights, does it?
To in sanctuary cities and stuff? Yeah, it does. The
How?
cities, they don't
You're not
check.
a citizen.
That's the argument. Like, but that's the idea is that you get in a whole voting block and you give them voting rights or don't check, and
I
then
think that
they're able
defeats
to
the whole purpose of being a
basically
United
stuff
States
it.
citizen.
But
I
that's
don't.
the way it is, though.
Look,
Like,
I don't think it is. Let me look it up real fast.
yeah, they don't. The states are kind of can control what they do, but they don't like. There's this Arizona ballot, for instance. It's like, well, if you're a non-resident or whatever, you just get a federal one, and we don't check it. We just give you it. But there are places that do like verification, but there's places that don't.
Non-citizens cannot vote,
Yeah,
including permanent legal residents, cannot vote in federal, state, and most local elections. I
yeah,
won.
that doesn't mean that they're not going to.
Okay.
If that's part of the whole voter ID thing, is like there's some push to say that you have to have ID and you have to show ID. And, but if you don't have to show ID, you can just vote, right?
I think I'm about to have an aneurysm.
Yeah. Or if you give them amnesty and say that you're just like and give them voting rights, I mean, it's weird, man.
To vote, you should be able to register in selective service. You should be able to complete a competency exam, like a assessment, like IQ.
Yeah,
You don't have to be smart. You just have to be average intelligence.
that's
Those are the
so.
requirements. I guarantee you, if we would have had those requirements in here, it's a high likelihood that we wouldn't be spending 10% of congressional hearings on what is a woman and are men allowed in bathrooms of little girls.
Because
So
only men have to sign up for the selective service.
it's a nice way of saying that we should question who we allow to vote, because voting is now the majority of voters that don't build America, that don't contribute to infrastructure, that are arguably 70% or higher, the consumers, they don't they're making emotional decisions and not logical, rational decisions.
Yeah, there's a case
I'm referring to gender.
there's a case that people have made. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's that women should have to sign up for the selective service in order to vote. Because if you're able to vote for policies that would produce a scenario where the selective service comes in, where you get drafted, you should have to have skin in the game.
Exactly.
That's just the nature of it. And I agree with that.
The
The
whole family court system, the whole fact that you're lucky to have a father in a family all the way up into the age of 18. Like, this stuff has destroyed families, and the reason why it destroyed families, because we were letting people in that are voting on emotions instead of reasoning, research, and data.
yeah,
And
everything's
like
an
it's
emotional
not
vote, but
popular what I'm saying, but
yeah.
like, F it, man. Like it is what it is. Like, there should be standards for who can vote. I'm not a registered voter, so obviously someone can make the argument like, who are you to say? But what I am
Well,
saying
you could
is
be, yeah.
what I am saying is in 2024, are we in a better state of society, of opportunity, of privilege than we were 30 years ago? And the answer is no. There's less families. There's a higher crime rate, arguably. Some would debate the 90s, especially early 90s. But
Yeah.
everything is fractured. And yet people don't want to point the finger, and people don't want to investigate or interrogate the policies that got us to this point. Like,
You'd
Yeah,
probably like Vivek Ramaswamy's
I do
for,
like
for
him.
yeah, because he wants to do a civics test requirement for if you're under 25 to vote, you'd have to take a civics and to pass the same civics test that somebody who comes here and has to take a citizenship test would take. Um, so that before you're allowed to vote or you reach a certain age, I can't remember. Um, but yeah,
If you're not contributing to evolving this country, then there needs to be strict criteria on if you should have the privilege to select leadership. Because right now this country is spiraling. And gambler, you don't have to go on the record, but 30 years ago, United States, like saying I'm American, like that was something that was proud. And now it's like, oh, okay, good for you. Like it's no longer a privilege, and it's we're really a laughing stock. Everything is a laughing stock.
well,
We
or
okay.
or that's what everybody the media wants you to believe.
What does that
That's a
mean?
complete. Well, I mean, what's shaping this opinion of it?
I could go outside. I don't need the media to tell me this. I
Yeah,
know that people have been socially conditioned to if the
socially
country if,
conditioned by what? I'm so
to
proud
to
to be American. I don't care. I
to be
mean,
distracted, to think it's a badge of honor to be a single parent mom. Like as you can like, there's a lot of issues with the way that people are being conditioned to think and to be
yeah,
proud of, and it's not. Like it's just effed up, man. It's obviously I take it personal because I feel like I don't have control over things that I should have influence over, right? Especially when it comes to like family. And it's like you have your hands tied behind your back where you can watch people or your loved ones fail. And it just sucks that you can't do anything about it unless you're willing to go to jail over it, which you won't win. So
yeah. There was I want to get your take on it. We can end it if you got to go too, but
no, get my
it
take on
was
it.
uh there was this video that I watched and oh, anyway, I won't step around. I won't
Say it.
step on eggshells on it. But basically, so this guy asked this gal because she's like, I'm a socialist or whatever, and he's like, and it's like, okay, what system is better than America's system? And it was pretty. And can you guess what she said? So like in terms of like when it comes to like, oh, here's a name a socialist or a more socialist country that's better than America's system.
I would argue Scandinavian countries. They just
Yeah.
don't talk about it.
And well, no, they all talk about it. They all point to the Scandinavian countries.
Okay.
And so then he goes like this. So you mean the countries that are more white?
Yeah.
And you could just see it, like her head explode, the scales head explode. Like, what?
Yeah. When logic is used against them.
Yeah, because it was funny, but because I can't remember how the setup was, but it was
They use the same thing with, about abortion and Hitler.
yeah,
Have you heard that one?
no,
So they'll ask like liberal women, you know, uh, does a man have a say in how he feels about abortion? And the liberal women will say no because they don't know what it's like to be a woman and they have no say. And then he follows up with, okay, do you think the Holocaust was a bad thing? And they say yes, of course. And they say, well, were you involved in the Holocaust? And then she'll say, no. So then he says, well, you don't have a say then. So you shouldn't have
express an opinion.
feelings
Yeah,
or express your opinion about something that you have no part of. And then it's just silence and he just drops the mic. So
yeah. The one I always like to bring up is circumcision to women because there's a lot of women who get their kids circumcised, and it's they say and I'm circumcised, whatever. But think about it. It's like as a kid, as a male kid, you get the tip chopped off, or not the tip, but the like hood chopped off. You have no say in it. You have no choice. This is what happens to you, and you have to live with their decision the rest of your life.
But you don't really live with that decision the rest of your
Yeah, you
life
do.
because it's normal. You're as a child, as a teenager, you're not saying, "Woe is me. I feel as if something's missing. I'm incomplete." Because chances are you don't see other
But
penises.
it's choice. It's all about choice, right? It's my body. Should it be my choice? You don't get the choice as a kid.
Okay. I think I
And
understand what
and
you're
the
saying.
thing is like a lot of mothers would would say like, okay, we're gonna get you circumcised as a baby, but you don't get a choice. And they have no problem with that entire thought process, that it's should be their choice whether they, because it's their body. No, as
Oh,
a kid,
is
you
isn't
yeah.
circumcision a Jewish practice? Like there's Jews and
Yeah,
Gentiles, right? And you're a Gentile, and yet
I'm a
you still got.
Gentile, but as Christians adopted the uh the practice of circumcision. So, but it's a cleanliness thing, and they say, I'm not saying that it's valid or not to get a circumcision. That's not the thing. It's the fact that you have no choice in the matter. It happens to you. And I'm just saying that there's like a lot of the same people who would say that you should have supreme rights over what happens to your body would be totally fine with chopping the foreskin off their kids at that age, which is completely, like, to me, is a complete, like, contradiction. But it is what it is, I suppose. So
Hmm.
I don't know though. I don't know what it's like to experience life with a foreskin. So I never had the choice. I never was granted that choice, you know, in my life. So maybe it would be better,
I
like
would
10 times
assume I would
better. I
assume
don't
that
know.
there's less filth, that
Yeah.
less maintenance. I would
I
assume.
would assume, yeah. Yeah, that's the supposed benefit of it, but is there no, like, sensory, like, ends within that?
Well, so one thing I do
Like,
agree
why
with.
did we evolve to have that then?
I remember 10, 15 years ago, uh, this Muslim guy was sentenced. I thought he was sentenced to like either 6 or 10 years in prison for circumcising his daughter.
Yeah, yeah. And female circumcision is a bad,
Yeah, with a
not a
broke
good
Coke
thing.
bottle. Like,
Ugh. No. Ugh. Man, ugh. Now they do that in certain, like, was it Islamic countries? They'll do that.
Gambler still has his foreskin.
Yeah, it's not rare here, which is interesting. It's interesting that it's rare in Europe.
You know what I don't like, Gambler? Well, first, Gambler, have you ever been to the United States?
You ever had soul food at KFC? Actually, when you canceled the week after, I'm like, I did it. I pissed him off with that soul food thing, but I didn't even
Uh,
mean it. I didn't know what I was
you,
saying.
you know what I don't like about
Damn it.
Europeans and also Argentinians? You know what they have in common at the beach, especially? Europeans and Argentinians see no problem with their children that could be toddlers up until the age of probably 6 walking around the beach butt naked. I think it's okay probably to the age of
Two,
I would argue two,
maybe three.
borderline three,
Yeah.
to have a kid butt naked on the beach. I've seen little girls that look like they were about 6 naked on the beach. Some people would argue, Scott, who cares? Like,
No, I agree. I agree. There's a point.
No, man. Like
There's a point where it's kind of like creepy and weird and like when
that
they're a
is European
toddler.
and Argentinian. They those parents like, yeah, I'll let my son or daughter free ball it, and they're like no longer a toddler, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like they don't even think twice about it, and it makes me uncomfortable. I have to go above and beyond, not even look in that direction. When I say direction, like I mean like okay, you have a left side and a right side. I feel as if I now if that naked little child is on the
Yeah,
right side, I feel as if I have to either look forward or look in the other direction. And I can no longer look that way when I'm at a park or a beach.
I feel the same way at the gym, but for different reasons.
Oh, you're talking about like the old white men with their saggy balls that sit bare cheeks on the bench. I see that
No,
almost
no,
all the
I'm
time when
talking
I go to
about
the gym.
I'm talking about when you get women that are, in extremely tight fit women in the gym and like I like to look around the gym, but I'm afraid like petrified that some gal's gonna think I'm staring at her
Are they
when I'm
recording
not.
themselves? They have their
Yeah.
tripod.
And then like
That should be banned.
you watch it like what and then it's like so it's like I like look up at the TVs at Planet Fitness and then it's like I'll just like look around on and all of a sudden I'll catch eyes with someone and I'm like, oh, I wasn't looking at it. I'm just looking around,
Yeah,
damn it.
but if they're recording themselves, then the whole point of it, it's not like they're going to go back home and critique them walking on the treadmill. No, they're going to post it on social media.
Yeah.
So
Look
they
at
have
this
a
creep
problem with
watching
you
me.
looking at them, yet they don't have a problem with thousands or hundreds of thousands of other people that don't even know we're looking at her.
Oh yeah, true. That
Again,
is kind of a weird.
we shouldn't
Yeah.
vote because it lacks logic. Everything is emotional.
Yeah. That
So
is kind of I never put that together before. But yeah, that's really true. Like
unless you're contributing to the betterment of society, you should not be allowed to vote.
yeah, there's some saying if you don't pay taxes, you shouldn't be like
You
property taxes.
Your
That
husband should
was
vote. Your husband should
originally.
vote because that's who you married. And so, in
Oh
general,
jeez.
no, no, no. I'm going. I'm going in.
I
You,
think the selective service thing is fair, like
if you
very
marry
fair.
somebody, chances are you're willing to let them be head of household and enforce policy in which choosing your representative in elections or whatever, like that's who you delegate to, right? And just like when you vote, I assume that there's a delegate within the federal like whatever presidency. Like we have too many people that don't think logically that are responsible for the United States downfall. They should either be shipped or deprived of their voting rights. Ship them to Cuba. I don't know. I'm
Well,
done
we'll see.
venting.
Say the same thing about pretty much everywhere, I think, except for Switzerland.
I don't trust men to be more logical at all.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Gamblers everything's an emotional decision. It's very like it's very rare that you can find someone who's not who thinks logically, who would it doesn't have some sort of
Gamler
emotional basis.
or Sean, do you think if women voted or no, do you think that if women didn't vote and instead it was delegated to head of household for them to cast in their vote to represent the family, do you think that there would be less crime, less people in prison between the ages of adolescence and let's say 30? Do you think that there's a correlation between people without fathers and people that commit crimes? And I would argue that people that commit crimes probably demonstrate that they're not as disciplined and they act out on irrational behavior as a consequence.
I think that most crime is just drug related. Almost all of it is comes back to
Okay.
drugs
Will you argue that people that get on drugs, there's more
or
people that come
poverty.
from single parent families than people that come from two
Yeah,
parent
but
families?
it's a poverty thing too. It's both. It's just about it's both culture and poverty.
Do you think within poverty, more people are in poverty that are single parents than people that are
Yeah, for sure.
families? So
Yeah, you have two incomes versus one.
my argument, in which most people agree, is people tend to be more productive in life when they have a father. And a father's role, one of his roles, is to instill discipline and to provide guidance. Because I would argue that men tend to think long term consequences, or tend to be strategic thinkers long term. They don't think about, they don't entertain possibility as much as they entertain probability. We're not conditioned by Disney. We're not conditioned by the Hallmark Channel. We're not. We're usually conditioned by data, facts, statistics. That's my
I
argument.
think it's a mix of, but the thing is I think that men and women bring different things to the table when it comes to raising kids, for sure, and having that juxtaposition of two different. There's like a balance to it,
Is there a
um, a-
balance? Okay.
and and and
Let's.
having both of those influences make sure that one doesn't become out of balance. Like I look at, you
No,
know,
no. If you could pause right there,
yeah.
I'm gonna ask you a question. Okay. Do you think? Do you think people that go to college for psychology or communications? Do you think that and they usually have college debt? Do you think that those degrees are useful in the society that we live in today, based on the amount of people that have those degrees?
Psychology.
Psychology and
I think
communications.
psychology and is useful as a, I don't know, as a as a major, I don't know, but
Well,
as a field of study, it's very useful, especially in like business and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, so there's a substantial number of CEOs or any C-band operatives that majored in psychology or
No,
communications.
I'm not saying majoring. I don't know that there's a lot of
That's my
value in
point.
majoring,
Now, which gender
but learning
overwhelming,
about it is,
which gender overwhelmingly majors in psychology and communications,
yeah.
right? It that supports my argument of lack of strategic thinking, strategic planning, should I say, right? So
Yeah.
I'm dropping it. It's not popular what I'm saying,
No, there's plenty of,
but what I am spitting is facts. Long term, they're not thinking about the policies for that's going to affect them the rest of their lives. But yet we're choosing leadership, and
there's a
now
lot of dudes that do that too. So it's it's not a
a lot of dudes that do what?
take
You-
use
Okay.
pointless degrees.
All right. So your degree is in computer engineering, computer science. What is it?
It's I have a degree in philosophy and computer science
Your major is in
because
computer science.
I had well, yeah, I mean, I guess that was my declared, although I picked up another major
Do you remember
in
how many people were in your graduating class for
like
computer science?
six, but we had a
Okay,
small yeah.
mine was a dozen. So
Yeah.
out of the 6 people, how many of them were women?
In my graduating class, none.
Okay.
I don't think. Maybe one. No,
Okay.
maybe one. I don't know. Then I know the
What,
next year had one, but
what, who makes up the majority in college when it comes to enrollment? Men or women?
yeah, women. Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to STEM, what's STEM? Science, technology. What does E stand for?
Let me tell you though, there was a considerably lot more women in the nursing programs though.
And that's respectable.
Yeah.
'Cause they make money.
Yeah,
They save lives.
but there were plenty of men that were in psychology and philosophy and every other degree under the sun that has barely any like job prospects. Liberal arts or what's it called? Leisure studies. That
I agree, but then when you focus on STEM after college, and you think about who's building the infrastructure, who's developing the technologies, who's maintaining all this so that this country can run and operate, let alone this world, it's men. I'm not disrespecting at all
no, it's
uh,
there's a
medical. Like
yeah.
it's absolutely necessary. My argument is there's a demographic of folks that haven't yet been demonstrating long-term strategic planning. And yet these are the people that are shaping the lives of our children based on policies that are not productive for our society. And
Well,
that's
that
all I'm
yeah.
saying.
Well, no, I
And
think that's
you
fair,
call a
and I
spade a spade.
but I think if you could suddenly pick up the paradigm and flip it and say that let's just say there's a bunch of single dads, like let's just invert that relationship for a second.
Okay.
I think that what you'd end up with is a completely different set of problems
Like what?
that are I don't know. I have no idea how to even describe it, but I think you would end up with another completely different set of problems because you have a skew towards a certain type of style and opinions and all that. I think that between men and women in a there's a balance in the way that they do things, and there's different approaches, and having a mix of that makes a more well-rounded kid, which is why,
I
you
would
know,
agree.
yeah. But I don't think that if you just said let's get rid of women, for instance, and all of the kids are going to be raised by their dads,
No, no, no.
that you're
I
going to
said
have, yeah,
what I said is there should be a constraint or a standard on who can vote, and that should be based on the IQ test
yeah. I don't
of
know how we
of
ended on this.
average,
Yeah.
right?
I
Because
I
what
do like the idea of saying that you have to sign up for the selective service and just open it up to women and say like what you when you reach an age, you can have the option. You can either sign up for the selective service and then you get all of the civics like whatever, or you don't, and then you lose out on, which is what happens to men. If you don't sign up, you're basically like you basically lose all of your privilege as a citizen.
the birth rate is declining, less people are getting married.
Yeah.
How is this going to be conducive for people like you and I that are going to live into their 70s and
See you again
80s?
more.
How is that sustainable?
What?
It it's not.
What, the selective service?
No, the policies that they have, the pressure that's put on the economy, the the one gender consumes way more than the other when it comes to the economy, and we're saying consume, not produce. How is that sustainable 30 years from now for taking care of the senior citizens? It's not. The formula, the policies that they have, it's not sustainable. Things have to change. This whole rewarding or breaking up families, um, you get compensated for breaking marriage vows at no fault. Like all this stuff is not helpful. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not. And so that's my
Yeah, I
biggest
agree.
issue.
Although there's a lot of, like
But
toxic
people keep voting these
situations too.
policies in, and
Yeah, it's
they're
a
not men.
yeah, that's the thing is like that's another thing that I liked about the way Vivek said is like we've got policies that have been voted in. There's a reason why they were voted in, and there's good reasons for it, for some of it. But it's all of the bad side effects that come with it that you have to address then, unless you decide to repeal the whole thing, which is pretty improbable at this point. So realistically, the best way to solve the problems is to just accept that you know, there is some good with this, and we've got to fix the bad parts that came with it after it's gone through and iterate as you go. But I think that that's maybe
Reform.
there's some because there's plenty of toxic relationships and things that are very bad for people if they stay in it, like produces really bad results for people, for society, where all of these laws in place and everything is very good for that scenario. It's
Why are
just
the
all of these
relationships
other
toxic?
ones, whatever, people using or beating each other
No, no,
or
no, no, no. I'll tell you why most of the relationships are toxic. Most of the relationships are toxic because people have been once again conditionally programmed to believe that they're supposed to be happy 24 hours a day so that they can publish it.
That's true. That is true.
Obviously, that's not all
You can
cases.
be happy 24 hours a day if you just drink THC soda all the time.
I don't even know what that is. What's testosterone,
No, THC, like,
or is that the marijuana thing?
yeah,
What is it?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. Is it? It's not legal in Florida yet, is it?
they have this. I can't say the word dispenser.
Actually, it's
How do you
got
say
to
the
be
word?
legal for
Dispensier. I can't say the word.
dispensaries
They have dispensaries.
for medical, so it's decriminalized in medical probably.
Yeah, but I don't see lines of people. Toronto has it for sure, and they have lines. But in Miami, I don't, uh, or in Florida, I don't think it's out there like that. Like maybe Colorado or Seattle or wherever they
Yeah,
have them at.
Minnesota just legalized it this year, so although most of it is still hemp derived THC, so it's um because there's marijuana and there's hemp, and they're in like the same thing, but hemp doesn't have the same like as much of the properties or whatever. So the farm bill that Trump signed made it so that hemp was legal to do derive all this stuff on, federally legal, and then states kind of like took it from there, whatever. But marijuana was still illegal federally, I think, but legal in states. It's weird. The yeah,
I To each their own. I have mixed ideas about that.
yeah,
I I have childhood friends. That's all they did. They're gone.
yeah.
They're schizophrenic. They are gone.
Yeah, I've heard if you take it as a kid, especially, you can develop psychosis and like,
Like take it over 20 years, and obviously maybe there's
yeah,
some other things I don't know about. Maybe they did some things that were harder, but based on some of the research that I've done, which really hasn't been that elaborate, I think there's a shared understanding that there's long-term consequences of increasing, I don't know the verb for being prone to exactly what you said, psychosis.
yeah,
These people are gone. They're not coming back. They are gone. They require assisted living. They can't survive by themselves. They are out
mhm,
of touch with society, and it's unfortunate. I mean, one of them called
yeah,
me like a couple months ago, and I just sat on the phone, listened to him talk. He wasn't concerned with anything I had to say. I just let him talk, and then after half an hour, like, all right, I did my good deed for the week, and I just got off the phone.
oh geez, yeah, that sucks, man. But it's I don't know. I
So
hear
that's
though,
my
like,
feedback about them opening up dispensaries or whatever. Is I think people should have the freedom to pick and choose. It's just, man, when life hits you, man, people will also use that as a crutch. Or some people that it. If I had my choice, which is contrary to maybe what I thought maybe 3 years ago, I probably wouldn't let that stuff be around.
hmm,
There's obviously people that know how to do it responsibly, and maybe that's the thing. Maybe you're good until you have like three or more arrests, and then maybe like you're no longer allowed because obviously
yeah.
people can do it responsibly,
Well,
right?
like, well, yeah, but and you could say the same thing with alcohol too. It's just uh,
I
but
would do the
that's
same thing
legal
with
everywhere.
alcohol.
Yeah,
I
they should be.
would,
What?
and
But they
obviously
do that
that's kind
though.
of heavy-handed, right? It would have to be
Yeah, like in a DWI situation,
it would
they'll
have to
take away
be a
someone's
drug
ability to.
test. It'll have to be like three occurrences with the authorities in which when they take your blood, you it's obvious that you were influenced by substances, and then after that,
Yeah,
you're banned.
yeah,
Like
yeah. That's fair enough.
you can't hold your liquor. You don't know how to act, So yeah, we're gonna take it from you. No soup for you. So
Yeah, I've been trying these like it's like a soda. It's like a club soda, but it's THC, hemp derived THC. I've been taking it at night, and it definitely helps sleep. It helps you sleep better. Like there's a pain management thing with it that's really nice. But I do feel I'm starting to feel like I'm getting duller though over time too. So it's not. I don't know. But I've also had less inclination to drink now. So it's
good,
like, but but yeah. So it's like I look at this and I like, okay, I can take this. I might wake up a little like dry eyed and maybe a little more groggy than normal, but I don't wake up feeling like I'm dying or want to puke. I don't get the hangovers and whatever, and I just don't have as much desire to drink anymore like I used to. I'll be drinking a lot this weekend because we're going ice fishing, and
I
it's fun to
was
drink beer on the ice. But
I was binge watching liver disease patients, and that turned me off to drinking. I mean, I'll still drink occasionally, but watching these people like turn yellow
oh
while they're
yeah,
like on their
ugh.
deathbed, like
Oh yeah, yeah,
that really messed with me, man. I'm like, all right, I'm straight.
yeah. So I don't know. I'm trying to do that. Basically, I've made kind of the rule that I not a rule, but it's a like a loosely held rule that I just generally don't drink at home. So if I'm like out with people and there's a social occasion and I want to try to get loose, so I'm a little bit more because
Yeah,
I'm pretty reserved when I'm like if I go out with a group, like a work group, like I'm just sitting there. I'm just present. I'm not
which
like
which is good.
interacting, you
I
know.
don't think you want to drink with work groups,
Oh no, no, you do because then you actually
especially with a
start talking
superior.
and no, no, dude. I've had some of the best outings when I've had a few drinks and you get talking and you walk away and everyone's like, you know, you have stories to tell and like I don't know.
I'll get
There's
too comfortable.
social lubricant. That's what it's called. But the THC drinks, they I don't know. Like you watch videos about people who get really high and they're all crazy and stuff. I don't understand that. Like I didn't accidentally. I had two of these drinks on Thanksgiving and I got just in the couch in the chair. I like my dad was talking to me. I couldn't understand what he was saying. Like it just completely like out there. But I wasn't goofy or like you know things were funnier if they happened. But I wasn't like I don't know. But I have no stomach though. That's the bad side of that stuff. Like if I have some of that, I can literally eat and eat and eat and eat and never get full. Like if I was gonna do a food competition, I'd have one of those beforehand, and I would be able to do any competition. I'm sure of it
Mm,
because it's like you know one of those eating ones where you have to eat a tremendous amount of food and finish it. I could probably do
Coney
that.
Island.
Yeah, because it affects me weird, but
I wonder what the consequences of that is.
yeah, of THC over time or
No,
eating,
eating like 40 hot
probably
dogs or
diabetes.
something.
No, I don't know. Those they're usually pretty skinny people, aren't they? That win the thing.
Well, the last one I
Eh,
saw was like maybe 5 years ago. It was like an Asian dude.
when did hot dogs become start to become called glizzies?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You haven't caught that people call hot dogs glizzies now?
No, that's a Minnesota thing.
No, it's not a Minnesota thing. I don't see it here in Minnesota as much as I see it on like videos of people talking.
Well,
Maybe
they're
it's like
trying
a
to
nuke.
are they trying to rebrand it?
No, but it maybe it's like yeet. Like maybe it's a slang term, like a generational slang term. Like yeeting is throwing something.
I don't even know what that
It
means.
means to throw something. Or cap is like lying or like
Oh yeah, stop the cap.
what is it? Like oh man, what are some of the other ones? They get there's a whole generational slang that, you know, and I wonder if glizzies are part of it.
I learned simp like 3 years ago.
Oh,
That was new to me.
yeah.
Like this is what
Simping.
I am. Oh, I never knew.
All the simps.
Simping. Stop simping.
Yeah. Oh man. Sus, which came from I'm pretty sure that came out of Among Us, the
Never heard
game.
of it.
Sus is like suspicious. Like, oh, that's sus. That's really sus.
It's a set out. You know what a
Said
set
out.
out is? But set out's not new. I mean, I've been using that since I was like a teenager.
No.
Set out is when you see somebody and you know it's going to be easy to get involved with that person.
Oh. Oh, there you go. All right. Probably should hang her up for the day. Before we go
Man,
down
yeah, we talked for
the
two
glizzy
hours.
hole.
God damn, I should start charging you 2 hours, man. You
I'm
don't
gonna
have to
start
work today?
charging you. No, I took the day off.
Okay.
I
Oh,
was gonna
I
I
thought
was
you were
gonna
going
try to
fishing
go to
tomorrow.
no, well I'm fishing tomorrow, but I gotta drive up to Lake of the Woods tonight. And I was hoping today that because I'm bringing my brother-in-law up with me, one of my brother-in-laws, and my other brother-in-law and his friend are going to Red Lake, which is south of Lake of the Woods, to do some ice fishing before they go up to Lake of the Woods to ice fish. So I was hoping to join them, to leave like in like an hour maybe from now and join them before, and then fish till sundown and then head up. But my other brother-in-laws can't leave until like 2, so
You know,
basically got the morning.
I'm gonna magically show up one of these times where you're gonna tell me like you're going ice fishing. I'm like, oh, okay, well, have fun. And
Yeah,
then
you
like
should just catch a plane up here, and you can come up, and
it's
you get
highly likely
you'll have to be okay with drinking a bunch of beer and buying a fishing license. But
I'll drink 1 or 2 cans of beer. But yeah, you gotta buy a fishing license if you're like a tourist.
yeah, don't you have to in Florida fish?
I've never seen
You get like
what
a
is it,
weekend pass, maybe.
game and wildlife like walk down the beach asking for a license.
Oh, DNR up here, man. If you go to these big lakes, they sit out there with binoculars and they watch like everyone. Like it's and they will get you and they will write you. It's almost more. It's like you probably have bigger fines for catching like an off-band fish than you do for like getting a DUI or something like that. It's insane. Like the wildlife protections in Minnesota
Well,
are
I mean, to be fair,
nutty.
you guys are doing like small lakes,
Well,
small
these aren't
bodies of water.
small. I mean,
It's not a
relative
great
for
lake.
lakes.
It's
Well,
not a
yeah, it's
great
not a
lake.
great lake, but
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
like
well, they're counted in.
there's only a finite number of fish in that body of water,
Yeah, well, they
right?
stock them, so yeah. I mean, it's part of
Compared to
that.
an ocean. So
Well, yeah, which is, I mean,
I mean,
the
if you're
only
not
thing.
casting out a net like the Chinese ships, like,
No, we have to use rods,
but
and then you
but
can
you're
have two.
yeah, I think you're supposed to throw back sharks. So
Yeah, so like the one lake we're going to, I think it's like I'd have to look up what the band is, but like anything between like I want to say it's like 17, 18 inches to 28, you have to throw back. The other lake, Red Lake, that my brother-in-law is going to, then it's like you can keep any fish over 17, but only one of them, and then anything under it you can keep up to like 4 total fish or something off of it. So there's limits on
now, why is that?
it's.
I would assume the smaller the fish, the I would assume there's more smaller fish than bigger fish, and so you would want to maximize them reproducing.
Well, yeah, but
Shouldn't it be reversed?
they're generally stocked. I mean, they reproduce naturally, but that's why they have seasons too. Like, so you can catch panfish year round, but they have seasons for walleye. So when the spawning season comes up, you can't fuck with them while they're in there. So the end of February to basically May, you're not allowed to catch these kinds of fish or keep them rather. You got to let them all go. Um, but um, yeah, I don't know. There's conservation
Well, I
rules.
mean,
They change the rules every year. They figure out how many fish are in there. Yeah,
yeah.
they
Well,
do surveys.
it would defeat the purpose of someone going fishing if they know that it's a low probability of catching a big fish. Then why go fishing in the first place? It defeats the whole purpose. So maybe that's the
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's part of it too. Is that they by keeping those bands quite big are like that. That you basically can catch a trophy, but it has to be a trophy. It can't be like a good sized fish or whatever. Um, but I don't know. Yeah, they have all sorts of rules about fishing around here. Um, yeah, and the DNR's office in Minnesota is huge. So yeah, you'd have to get a fishing license. You have to be licensed to fish in Minnesota.
Mm.
So all
Enjoy
right.
the rest of your day.
Yep. Have a good one. Bye.
All right, see ya. Bye. Gambler, if you're still here, peace.